It is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Tyler Burke, presenting on the topic Securing the Industrial Network. Tyler Burke has been serving the Canadian market for more than 10 years. His current role is Product Manager for Automation at Phoenix Contact Canada. Before assuming this role, he worked in technical support and field applications. The scope of his expertise in automation, functional safety, and networking has taken him on assignments throughout Canada, as well as in Germany and the United States. Additionally, Burke is TUV certified as a functional safety technician. Welcome, Tyler. Take it away from here.
Thank you. So I'll just start sharing my screen. Perfect. Yeah. So I have the pleasure today about talking about securing the industrial network and really the challenges that brings and what it kind of means for us going forward. To give you a brief introduction, my name is Tyler Burke. I'm with Phoenix Contact. We have over 60,000 products. So today I'm going to be talking mostly about networking and cybersecurity in general. But we do have lots of other solutions. We really focus in on kind of connecting and analyzing signals. We don't really have very much on the actuator or the sensor end. So when we're talking about cybersecurity as a whole, it's really important to realize that there's no one solution. There's really three pieces that come together, and it's people working with specific processes and using different technologies. And whatever weak point you have in this chain will really dictate everything. So if you have, humans who don't understand something, they might make mistakes, of course. If the processes are too cumbersome, people tend to just avoid them. And if your technology is obviously not patched or out of date, it ends up being a big problem. On top of that, there's a bunch of new laws that are really going to start pushing cybersecurity in a huge way down at the OT level. So there's a machine builder directive in Europe that was passed, and it's resulted in standards such as ISO 13849 being updated. That basically means that if you build a safety system and you get compromised on the cybersecurity, the machine builder is still going to be at fault. So they have to ensure that they do adequate things to protect against cyber incidents resulting in a loss of safety. In Canada, we have the Bill C-26 that passed the second reading a while back, and it's waiting for Parliament to reopen. And that could mean that a lot of new areas have to enforce cybersecurity. And then in the US, the SEC changed their rules for public companies. So if you're a public company and you get breached by a cyber incident, you need to disclose that during your investor reports. So obviously, no company is going to want to talk about how many times they've been hacked. And if it's a big liability for them, they're going to make sure that they address that. And on top of that, there is cyber insurance, but the premiums keep going up. So that's kind of the landscape. When we think about, any network, we obviously have IT and we want to work really closely with them, but they can't protect everything on the OT side. And the biggest reason for that is that they just really focus in on different things. OT focuses more on like data and process, whereas IT really focuses a lot more on like data protection, so to speak, right? So that really comes down to how we prioritize, the CIA, is your information confidential, what's the integrity, and what's the availability. So for operational people, we really care about the availability. We want to have 100% uptime. And for IT, they care about the confidentiality, which makes sense, right? If I have a credit card, I want to make sure that the digits are protected. But if I'm, running a plant, I want to make sure that the assembly line keeps moving. I don't really care that much if somebody can read the data, more that the data is there and it's accurate. And of course, then it comes up to the availability, how often we restart, how often we can patch, and how old these systems are. So in the operations sector, we have a lot of different challenges because we have a mishmash of different manufacturers. A lot of the times we're running these plants for 10 to 20 years. Patching is really difficult because we don't always go down. We don't have downtime all the time to do updates. So when we're looking at like an end customer point of view, there's lots of different key points that a lot of the end customers are looking for. This is a very high level, simple overview, but I can break it down just to kind of make it easy. So typically you'll have some type of office network setup, and in there you're going to have potentially a single or redundant connection into like an IDMZ, which is an industrial demilitarized zone. Basically, it's the gap between two firewalls. So you have basically like an untrusted network, which would be your office network, semi-trusted network, which would be your internet DMZ, and then your trusted networks would be your machine networks, and this is where your plant and all that data is going to reside. And the reason why we're seeing this push towards kind of this multi-leveled approach is there's lots of reasons for that. One big reason is IIoT. People aren't really sure where to put it, and so having a demilitarized zone ends up being a great spot. You can put it here, and it's at the edge of both networks from your office and from your machine network. And it means that typically you can't get people directly from your office network coming down into your machine layer. The reason why there's all these lines all over the place is because when you start having redundancy, you want to make sure you have redundant network. So that could be star topologies or ring topologies, ensuring that no single failure can result in the loss of data or the loss of your system, right? Again, so when you're thinking of cybersecurity, it's never just one device; it's always a whole setup. You typically look at the physical layers first, so making sure that you have panels that they're locked, you have lights, you have potentially guards if it's a very high critical area and you're worried about people physically breaching your security. Then the next step is usually making sure that your devices are intelligent in a way that they can help manage and shape the traffic. And part of that comes then down to who is going to be responsible for maintaining this. So for a lot of industrial devices, we have electricians on staff. So we would need to make sure that these devices are easily replaceable. So then comes the machine level itself, and we want to make sure that we can have lots of different machines that get connected. So Phoenix, we have different solutions here, but really one of the products that I wanted to talk about was an industrial firewall. It's actually 62443 certified, and it offers gigabit throughput, and it can isolate the two networks. So you can have machine network A and machine network B. You can segment your networks as a result. And it can also do something called stealth mode, which lets you basically keep a network architecture the same. So if you're not able to change your IPs, you can put this into stealth mode and it just acts like an inline firewall. So this is just one layer of cybersecurity, but you'd combine this with very good managed switches, with again redundancy. You'd have to have some type of software that's reporting all of this and recording it all. And from Phoenix Contact, we do have that, but my recommendation to customers is usually evaluate your network, because if you have more than just Phoenix devices on your network, sometimes going with one vendor specific software doesn't really make as much sense as going with a company that's all they do is have software that integrates everything. And in my drawing, I was kind of showing, with this device where it would sit, but I kind of grossly oversimplified it. So in general, you'll tend to see, in the IDMZ network, this is where, as I mentioned, your IIoT devices would sit. So we've seen things like concentration panels. They're sometimes called network or zone panels. And basically what it is, it's a panel that will have a firewall that separates two different subnets, two managed switches, one for each side of the firewall, a bunch of patch panels to connect everything. And then a lot of the times you'll see in my drawing right here, I have, this is an edge device. So it could be like a controller like this one is that would physically have IO, or sometimes it's like a small PC. And then it ends up connecting a lot of the times on the IDMZ side. So, from Phoenix, one of our big innovations is we have a self-learning firewall. So basically you can set up these devices, put them into teach mode. It'll listen to the traffic. Then you're able to drop that out of teach mode and evaluate the traffic. So look at the ports and IPs, map them to what you need. And then automatically you can, get up and running. So if you've never configured a firewall before, this will really save you a ton of time. And if you're a firewall expert, you can totally ignore this feature and do everything you need. So really, that was kind of one of the biggest features that I wanted to talk about when we're talking about cybersecurity as a whole. Is just how simple things have come, and how you don't need to do that much anymore, right? There's this notion that you only need to do one thing wrong, and that everything then someone will hack your network. And truthfully, you have lots of layers of protection. You only need to get one thing right, and you'll prevent them from ever getting in. And so segmenting it, making your networks very small, very condensed, is always the best way. In general, I can wrap up here just by talking about the mGuard itself. That is the Phoenix Contact machine guard. The reasons that make it so special, it's secure by design. So we get our products to meet IEC 62443. We have a wide product range. Phoenix Contact has been developing these products for over 20 years. And the last unit came out in 2013, and it's still available. And we just released a new gigabit unit. We also do daily monitoring. So if you have any cybersecurity questions or needs, reach out to us. We have application engineers across Canada and the US, and they can help design your networks and help safeguard your systems. So that's everything from me, and thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Tyler, for your insights on cybersecurity and everything that Phoenix Contact has to offer.